Everyone, I don't. Hey guys. So we had a question about the reimbursement. So these cards I'm handing out, these keep your receipts for and will reimburse you. And then what the ask is that you make out another check to the charitable fund, but don't restrict it to Operation Santa. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay,
That's a personal contribution.
that is a personal
Right.
contribution, right? That makes sense?
Yeah, instead of buying gifts out of your own pocket, if you could just donate to the charitable foundation or charitable piece, that way we have that for the spring or other activities
Yeah,
we want
not
to do this year.
designated for operations.
Right. I mean, unless you really want to, feel free to, but if you leave it open, it just gives us opportunities to use the money for other things. Yeah, it could be whatever, 5,000. Whatever. Yep. All right. Tom, why don't you run up?
The gifts back here,
Yeah, so we want the gifts here by November 30th.
okay, by November 30th.
Yeah, at the latest. If you get it sooner, you can just drop them off here.
Good morning. So I'm honored to have Phil Wyzik with us today. Phil is the CEO of Monadnock Family Services. And many of you know about it, but if you don't, he will tell us, give us a background of what it does. It's an important agency in the region and has adopted many other agencies over the years as things have teetered between boom and bust of our economy. And so Phil is going to introduce you to it. I've been an incorporator, which means basically kept in the loop would be a fair, not being terribly active, but a great admirer of the organization and what it does for our region. And really that's what makes this a special place to live. If you live in an anonymous town, Boston or somewhere, it's great, but nobody knows. And this is really about community and helping each other. So please welcome Phil Wyzik, also a Rotarian.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for inviting me to come and talk to your group. And it's always wonderful to be with fellow Rotarians and hear what other clubs are doing and things like that. So it's great to be here. So by way of introduction, I've been the CEO of Monadnock Family Services for coming up on 10 years. And before that, I was the CEO of a mental health organization in Connecticut for 4 years or so. And then before that, I worked in Lebanon, New Hampshire in the mental health field for 17 years. And then before that, I worked in Worcester, Massachusetts as a drug counselor in a heroin methadone clinic. And before that, I was a teacher. And so I think through it all, I've had a wonderful career, and I think I know a tiny bit about mental health. But with that in mind, let me just remind you that Monadnock Family Services is one of 10 community mental health organizations in the state. So our territory is the greater Monadnock region, Cheshire, and most of this part of Hillsborough County. We're an organization of about 185 employees on a good day. Currently, we have about 30 or so vacancies. So a lot of struggles like any other employer in the world these days to try to fill those positions. So our job is to take care of people with long-term mental health challenges, either kids or adults. That's our mission chartered by the state. And we do that in Keene, an office in Peterborough. We have the Adult Care Center in Jaffrey. We have a small office in Winchester. We have a housing program in Keene as well. Most of our care, though, about 50% of it is what I would term old-fashioned social work, boots on the ground, people going into the homes, going into the community, helping people with their daily basic needs. So we do a lot of things besides mental health counseling, which most people think was what a mental health center does. So you'd be quite surprised at the types of things we get involved in. And to further give you an example of what Tom said about the wonderful community we live in the Monadnock region, let me tell you two things. I will remember very vividly when I first took the job about 10 years ago at Monadnock Family Services, right? The agency was in a lot of turmoil, and there was a lot of reasons for that, but it was a mess. Plain and simple, it was a mess. And the wonderful community example is that people wanted to come from the community and meet me. They wanted to, say hello. They wanted to say, please, we need this organization to survive. We need you to do well. And we just wanted to give you our support and tell you how much this organization, this mental health service does for the community. And without you, we'd be lost. And so it was more one message like this on my, first couple of weeks in the job. And I thought, wow, this is a huge, unusual and wonderful thing, because being in community mental health for most of my career, right, that doesn't happen. Community mental health agency is usually tucked away in some back corner of the some sort of ghetto kind of place, and it does not a lot of things in the public mind, and a lot of people don't know what we do, and fewer people care about what we do. And this was sort of just people rolling out the welcome mat, saying, we need your organization to succeed. You can help, we'll help you, but things have gone bad and we need you to pull these things together because we're counting on you. I thought that was like huge. We're not just a community mental health center. We are a health center of the community, right? People investing in us and wanting us to succeed, which to me, as the CEO, was just a huge thing. Let me give you another example of the wonderful community we live in. Once a year, we decide, for the last 5 or 6 years, we decided to have a staff appreciation day. And we would rent some space in Swansea, a sort of retreat center on the lake, Pilgrim Pines. If you've ever been there, it's kind of a nice place. Have people come, do some workshops, do some, cheerleading and tell them how wonderful they are and stuff like that. And so during the pandemic, we were not able to do those for now 2 years in a row. We thought, it was just hard to bring 150 people who attend together in one space, and it seemed like risky. And so we decided to cancel it. But in place, we just first thought, let's have Staff Appreciation Day sometime in November, and we'll do some fun things. And one thing led to another, and we thought that's not a good idea. Why don't we have Staff Appreciation Month in the month of November? And so we've said, yeah, let's make sure people feel like our employees are feeling like they work for a company who cares about them. We can't pay a lot, there's lots of stress on the job, but let's see what we can do to make sure our employees feel appreciated. And so someone said, well, maybe we should have raffles. Let's reach out to our incorporators like Tom to see if they would help us produce some stuff. And the response has been, I would say, phenomenal. We thought we would try to give away like a, kind of raffle prize once a day. We have enough, we got enough raffle prizes to go until January. And this is what they're like. Some incorporator person, Colleen Kennedy, showed up one day with 100 homemade wrapped brownies that were like to die for. They were chocolate and caramel, and each one was wrapped. We had a bunch of incorporators go to a coffee shop in Keene and say, let's make a fund so that anybody that works for Monadnock Family Services can get a free coffee. And they paid for a free coffee. We had gifts from people that sort of came out of the woodwork to show their appreciation for things that our employees do, which I thought was just phenomenal. And our office here in Peterborough, there is a gentleman in Dublin who's called us up and said, how many employees do you have in Peterborough? And we said, well, 15. I want to take them all out to dinner. It'll be on me as a sign of appreciation. So the response from our friends and supporters about showing employees at MFS their appreciation has just been really touching, very touching. So we live in a wonderful community, and my organization is very proud to contribute to that community atmosphere. So, we have a bunch of things on the horizon that are kind of, I feel like we're on the starting block of a new chapter in the organization's existence, basically. Several things are pushing us to this point of decision, this fork in the road. One of them is, of course, the pandemic that we're still struggling with. You may be interested in knowing that in New Hampshire, that we are not out of the woods with the COVID pandemic. Only about 50% of our population is fully vaccinated. And that's true of Cheshire County. I don't know about Hillsborough County, but Cheshire is now deemed by the CDC to be an extreme risk of transmission. You think about, after 20 months of struggling with this stuff, we're still not out of the woods. That's, kind of like really significant that we're still struggling with this. Unfortunately, though, now we have the capacity to vaccinate children. And I think that will help some of our numbers decline, I think, but we're still not out of the woods. Anyway, that's pushing our organization to think about the future in a way that we probably didn't think about it 2 or 3 years ago. One is, how do we deliver mental health care in new ways using telehealth, right? So telehealth has been a game changer for healthcare with the pandemic. Insurance companies have stepped up, funders, stakeholders have, some people are very much embracing telehealth because it solves some problems for them. It's not a magic answer to healthcare, but it's going to be part of our future in any one way or the other. And what does that mean for us? How do we deliver psychiatric care, mental health counseling, again, the sort of old-fashioned social work using a telehealth? And so the pandemic has forced us to think about this in a new way, and that's probably good for our future. It also means changes in what our employees expect, right? Some people out there will want to have a combination job. They don't want to sit in an office 5 days a week anymore. They would probably want to mix a hybrid of 3 days in the office, 2 days at home, or vice versa, right? They have little kids, and so 4 days in the office and 1 day would be good. So we have a changing world of work that is not what we've anticipated 5 years ago. That's pushing us. And if you ask me, looking ahead, I would more easily for me to predict the end of the pandemic than I can predict the end of our workforce problems in the world, right? So I don't know where all the workers have gone, but they're not doing mental health work. I don't know, so I can more easily see the end of the pandemic than I can the workforce challenges. So for me, that means we will have over time an increase in demand for mental health care, but a lesser capacity to meet that demand, lesser people. So what does that mean? How can we deliver mental health care having lesser workers in a world that now sees something, because of the pandemic, sees something about how important mental health care is for all of us, right? You probably have experienced the pandemic's disruption in your life in some way, right? When there was lockdown, you couldn't go to the gym, you couldn't go to church, you couldn't, everybody was panicking about what's going to happen, and would we contract a virus that might kill us, and all that anxiety and disruption, right? Well, that is not, it's calmed down a little bit, but the long-term implications of this from a mental health point of view are not yet seen. And I have to tell you, early on in the pandemic, people would call me, like the newspapers or the radio guy or somebody would call me and say, what's going to happen to mental health in the midst of this pandemic? What's the influence of the COVID-19 virus on people's mental health? To which I would say, I don't really know, but it's sure going to have some impact because mental health is so important to our overall health, right? That it is bound to have some impact on that. So we have not fully seen the impact of the pandemic. I will tell you, though, that demand for mental health care is on the rise. And we see that in the emergency rooms. We see that in people calling us up for care. Private practitioners in the community are busy. I'm sure Laura can say the same thing about what's happening at Monadnock. So there's an increased demand, in my opinion, and a lesser capacity to meet that demand. So what does any business do when that's the case, right? When you have an increased demand and lesser capacity to fill the demand? Well, you have to figure out how your product or service has to adjust to that reality. And so we are trying to figure out how we adjust in the future to do things that go differently than what you might consider mental health counseling. the traditional idea of a mental health center. Well, you talk to people one-on-one, and somebody might come in to talk to a counselor and have sessions, and their issue is resolved, or maybe their situation requires longer term care and they might need medication and stuff like that. All that is true, but our ability to deliver that traditional stuff is lesser. So how does that mean we have to shift towards more group things, or more self-help things, or more non-talk therapy, particularly for children? What do we have to do? I mean, speaking of children, actually, what we see, and I can't explain this to you, what we see now is much more gender issues coming in with kids about LGBT, about gender identity. I don't know where I'm not a clinician anymore. Just an administrator guy. So I don't know how to explain this phenomenon to you, but that's a growing issue that healthcare sees and mental health care sees in the future, all that area. So with all these demands and pressures, the question is, how does MFS cope with that stuff? And one of the things we have on the horizon is finally succeeding at achieving a 3 or 4, well, probably now 5 or 6 year goal we've had of consolidating some of our programs in Keene under one roof. And so we've embarked on a bold kind of initiative to purchase a building in Keene where we can bring 3 disparate programs under one roof and save money on occupancy and efficiencies and do that. So we're in the process of purchasing the 40 Avon Street property that's currently owned by Antioch, New England, and developing a partnership with them so that our service culture as an employer and their academic culture sort of blend, and we can deliver better service in the future with their academic foundation and our service delivery. So it's a partnership that we hope is going to flourish over the next few years. It's a bold thing for us, a very big project, but if we play our cards right, we will have a greener building that's more amenable to the future needs of our clients and our staff, and be in a place that will keep the organization functioning into the future. So very excited about that. And it's probably the biggest management project I've ever had to take on. So let me stop there. I'm not sure what's most helpful to you as a club, or how to give you further information. So with the time that remains, why don't I just let you ask me some questions and we'll go from there. Please.
I got a question. So you mentioned it's harder to find people to provide the services. I know one of the things is, I guess, all the people that work for MFS have some degree above a bachelor's. Is that true?
Most of our employees have bachelor's or more education.
Right. And then with that, I can imagine the pay is not that great. So how do we as a society get more people into this field? It just seems like it's everywhere. It's not just a certain group of people.
Yeah. Well,
how
yeah,
do you see that changing kind of going forward?
Yeah. Well, I can say a few things. You would be surprised that in the month of September, and I don't yet have October statistics on this, but in the month of September, we were able to make 9 job offers to people of various different kinds of jobs and roles and stuff like that. Do you want to guess on how many people accepted?
1.
9.
Great.
Oh,
So to me, that means it wasn't, people didn't turn us down because of low pay. 9 people out of 9 accepted our offers. In August, we were able to make 7 offers to people who want a job. That's nowhere near where we should have, but we made 7 offers. Can you guess how many people accepted? 7. So to me, that signals that there's something that we're doing that's attractive to new employees. The problem is there's not enough new employees to be attracted to what we're doing, right? Unfortunately, in July, we had where our track record was not that good. In June, it was not that good in terms of numbers of acceptances. But it's not always about low pay. But on the other hand, I would be happy to tell you, as I am glad to tell any other group, every one of my 185 employees could make more money doing something else. Even the highest paid psychiatrist could make money doing something else. So is it a pay issue? For some people it is, right? But for others, they are attracted to the work because of the culture, because of the mission, because of the community service. Just like you are Rotarians who have a value about service. There's a lot of people in the world who share that value, though they don't call themselves Rotarians, right? And so they're attracted to work. Well, where are those workers going to come in the future? One of the things we've done in the past that's been quite successful is that we would offer a kid at Keene State College, a senior, a part-time job that he or she might do a couple hours a week with us on the clock in hopes of enticing them to stay. And now that since they've learned the job after graduation and work for us, and that's been very successful. So we have to be more creative about things. Our future partnership with Antioch is now looking like we have 7 Antioch students right now doing internships with us. And usually we snag a few of those every year, or interns that come from Southern New Hampshire University or Franklin Pierce or others. So we're trying to get into the pipeline of careers earlier on. And I think as my counterpart organizations in the state think, we have to do more as an association of 10 organizations to say, if you've never thought about community mental health work in your social human service, thinking, please do, because this work is really important and really cool. So there's nothing about it is a quick fix, however. Peg, I think you have your hand.
Yeah, are you able to recruit from other states?
Yes and no. Yes and no. Some of our neighbors, Vermont and New Hampshire, pay better than us. Sometimes for professionals who have licenses, New Hampshire is not a friendly place to come to because it takes years to go through the hoops of getting professional credentials transferred to New Hampshire.
So it doesn't have reciprocating agreements with
Not in the psychology, mental health field like they do with nursing.
Systems are getting loaded.
Yeah.
Is New Hampshire the only state in the country that doesn't have reciprocating agreements? with others?
I don't know the answer to that question. I imagine not. I imagine not.
There is no other state in the country.
Oh, no. I imagine we're not unique in that regard.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's a wild guess, but on that question, mental health services throughout the country are varied as every state is varied. There isn't a common structure or system. It's very different state to state. And that's because about 45 years ago or so, the federal government said, physical health, we'll do it this way. We'll take charge of low cost public sector physical health. It's called community health centers, right? Low cost, anybody will serve anybody. We'll give you federal dollars, you states who want to do these clinics. And that's how we'll do it. Mental health, you guys in the states, you take care of it. We'll pay you for that, but we won't make the rules. We won't help you out. We won't do it. So every state has developed a mental health system very differently. Currently, a group called Mental Health America ranks all the states. New Hampshire typically lands in the top third. This past year, 2022, when the report came out, the state that was number 1 was Massachusetts. Interesting. Yes, please.
You may not want to answer this one, but
I hate when questions start off like that.
were you happy to offer jobs to these 16 people when they qualified?
Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
We're not after just warm bodies. We're not after because that, frankly, as an employer, that comes back to bite you sooner or later. We have to invite people into the company, into the organization that really want to be there. And we tell them from the get-go, this is our culture. It might not be the right place for you, right? If you're not interested in serving people who, for some of them, society has pushed aside, if you're not interested in learning and challenging yourself as a professional, if you're not interested in teamwork or ethical practice, right? This is not the job for you. So we don't offer any job to anybody, from the janitor to the doctor. who is not a good fit for the organization. Please. Yep,
How about high school students? Do you work with high school students? Or are they mostly handled by counselors at the schools?
Actually, that's a great question. Yes, we do work with kids and adults. We do work with high school kids and grade school kids and even younger than preschool kids. We are involved in, I want to say, like 5 high schools where we outstation counselors to those schools. We have less of a relationship over time now with Conval than we had in the past, because I think they've had their own staff to do mental health counseling there. But yeah, we are involved in schools. One of our biggest places to be is the Winchester schools, where we have a satellite office right on campus of the school. Yes, please.
Is private insurance a significant source of your revenue? And how do you deal with the wide range of mental health coverage, which normally is another whole section than your physical health,
Yeah.
and presumably at very limited rates and limited caps? How
Yeah.
does that work and how do you fight through that system?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. The private insurance is not a large fraction of our revenue. The largest piece of our revenue is Medicaid dollars, because our focus clientele are people struggling with poverty and disability at the same time. So we're in that niche of a mental health spectrum where people are, significantly have significant challenges with their symptoms and their condition and in their poverty. That's our focus. Because first of all, the state sets us up that way, but we know that nobody else wants to address the high needs of that population. So that's our space. We do take private insurances if necessary, and when that's possible, it's a smaller amount of our revenue. One of the things, of course, is that private insurance like Blue Cross Blue Shield or United Healthcare or Tufts New England or Harvard Pilgrim, right? They don't tend to pay for all the things that someone with a big disability needs: housing, medications, other kinds of service, like, again, like I said, basic boots on the ground stuff. They don't cover that. And so it's not a significant piece of our work. Like, unlike, say, an organization like MAPS, who can take, many more insurances, we are focused on different part of the healthcare continuum, those who have significant disabilities, particularly in adults. I want to thank you for all the work you do in the community as Rotarians, the Operation Santa, all the success that you've done bringing service and help to many people in the region. Thank you on behalf of me as a Rotarian, as me as a community member. Thank you for the opportunity to come and talk with you today, and I'm happy to come back or to stay and answer your questions.
I love that.